Hello friends, welcome to IT Articles. In this tutorial, we're gonna see arrow functions. Arrow function is nothing but a special syntax to write function expressions, which has some other limitations like it do not have its own arguments and its own this keywords and some others. So first let's see how we can convert this function expression to a simple arrow function. Then we'll see what all the other rules we have regarding arrow functions to make it more precise and compact. Let's jump back to here. So we have roughly the same where we have one function expression name and where we are passing the user and which is returning the first name and last name concatenated. So to convert these functions to arrow, what we need to do is just remove the function keyword and have a arrow sign just before the opening curly braces. So let's see once again. This is our function expression which has function keyword. So to convert it to arrow, let's remove function and have an arrow just before the opening curly braces. So let's jump back to our example here, and to convert this to arrow function, let's apply the same thing. Remove a function keyword, come just before the opening curly braces and create a arrow sign using equal and the greater than. So now this is exactly same as this and it's arrow function. Now arrow function, as I said earlier, is actually a different syntax, or I should say a compact syntax to write your function expression. So yes, arrow function has its own some rules to make it more precise. First rule says if you have a single expression or statement between opening and the closing curly braces, you can make it more precise in the way that you can remove this opening curly braces, you can remove this closing curly braces, pull this line, second line in the first line itself like this, and remove the return keyword. So if you see closely, what I have done is I have removed this opening curly braces, I have removed this closing curly braces, I have removed return and pulled this expression in the same line. So now your arrow function will understand, okay, this is the expression that I need to execute and return. Another rule of the arrow function says if you have a single argument to pass in this arrow function, there is no need of this opening and closing parenthesis. So let's remove this. Now again, this is exactly the same what we have above. Let's see another example where we need to pass multiple arguments. So let's say we need to do some calculation, and where we are passing, let's say, some param1 and param2. See, here the parentheses are required because it's more than one arguments. And again, if it's a single line expression, we can do here like calculate now, and we can pass the param1 and param2. But if it's a multiple statement, what we need to do is we need to have opening closing braces as we have here, and should have the return keyword also. And let's say here we have some let mid results, which is some first calc and which takes argument 1, argument 1, argument 2, which is mid, and mid result is actually used here also. So let's say like this. In that case, because it's more than one line, then we need opening closing curly braces as well as the return keyword. Let's see with some example. So example can be let's let get length, and this function will actually return you the length of the values that you have passed here. So let's say I'm passing one array of names, and so how we can have it here is like a return array of names, and we can map to name and finally name dot length. How we will call this function is like get length, and we'll be passing our array where we'll have all the names. So like name1 and finally another name, and something is wrong, yeah, and here we can have third name like this, right? So it will return you the length. So now let's see how we can convert this function to arrow function. So let's apply this first rule that I've said, remove function keyword, have arrow just before opening curly braces. So now this is arrow function. Rule says if you have a single statement here, you can remove opening curly braces, you can pull a statement in the same line, you can remove this return and remove the closing curly braces. Other rule says because this is a single argument, so you can remove the opening and closing curly braces. So now this line is exactly equivalent to this line. Let's take another example where we'll be returning a complex object instead of single values. So here we have function. It's taking one example, or let's say user values, and let's create this way. So we'll have some, first let's create some object. This object will have name is equals to, you can see how I'm creating the name is name dot first name. So let's use the interpolation here. The user dot last name. So let's make it this way, it will be easy to read. And we are returning, let's say, age also, and for the age I'm getting the age user.age. So here we are returning name and age, and to return we'll write returns object, right? So this way, let's say this example where we are returning a complex object instead of a single values. Again, if you see closely, I can merge these two statements together. So instead of returning this object in another line, I can write here itself. So I can first convert these two lines into single line, right? Now if you see, it's a single statement overall. It's not about the single line, it's about the single statement. So now it's a one statement between these two opening and closing parentheses. First, let's create this object in the inline. So now we'll remove opening and closing braces, we'll remove the then return keyword, and we'll pull this in the same line, right? So as per the above rule, it should work fine, but if you see closely, it says there is error. The reason is this curly braces, it is considering as a opening and closing braces of the arrow function, not as opening and closing braces for this object creations. This is object creation. So the text that I have selected is actually responsible to create the object, but arrow function is considering this is opening braces of this arrow function and this is the closing braces of arrow function. So now arrow function expecting this should be a valid expressions, which is not. That's why it is giving this error. So what we can do is we can wrap this whole statement in the parenthesis, then it will understand, okay, now this whole thing is a single expressions, and then there's no need of return and opening and closing braces. So for complex object also you can create a such arrow function which is single lined and returning a complex object. So that's all in this video, guys. If you like my video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.